Dr. Scott Kilberg, the Video Foot Doc, here with another video for you on all things foot and ankle. Today I'm going to talk about the 4 main reasons why your toenails can hurt. Now I'm actually going to split this up into a couple of videos so I can concentrate in a little bit more detail on each one. But there are essentially 4 reasons why toenails can become painful. The first 2 that I'm going to talk about are basically ingrown toenails as well as bruised toenails. Now both of these conditions are very common. People can get them at any age, and there's a multitude of different reasons why they develop in the first place. I'm going to start off with ingrown toenails. Now ingrown toenails are very common. A lot of people are simply born with their toenails being curved into almost like a C shape, and others gradually develop ingrown toenails over time. The reason why you develop them over time is that the nail root cells that grow the nail out are relatively fragile, and anything that creates a lot of pressure, such as tight shoes or kicking something or creating or having something drop on the foot itself, anything that creates abnormal pressure in the area where the nail root cells grow the nail from can cause damage to these very fragile cells. And when they become damaged, they just simply start to grow the toenail out in a different manner than they originally did. And one of the ways that the nail grows out can be in a curved manner. Now, an ingrown toenail in and of itself is not a major issue for the skin next to it. Ingrown toenails don't inherently hurt on their own because the pressure of the actual nail curling into the skin is not really a problem for the body. However, when something occurs that causes the skin next to the toenail to become a little bit irritated or inflamed, such as if you were to wear a very tight shoe for a period of time, or to kick something or have something fall on the toe itself, or if when you cut your toenails, you cut back a little bit too close and get a little bit of that skin along the side of the toenail when you cut it, those types of scenarios can create inflammation in the skin surrounding the toenail itself. When that skin border becomes inflamed, it becomes very sensitive because of the nerves that are in the skin become irritated by all that inflammation. And then when that inflammation is forcing the skin to be pushed into that hard toenail itself, that creates even more pain. And now that whole process can trap bacteria, and sometimes these ingrown toenails can become infected. And that's when people mostly notice that they have an ingrown toenail, is when it becomes inflamed and or infected. So this is one of the major reasons why people develop toenail pain. And the ingrown toenail in and of itself, while it's not a major issue in the beginning, if it becomes chronically irritated or chronically inflamed over time, this can make for a very painful toenail until it's treated by a simple procedure in the office. Now, the second main cause of why you develop toenail pain has much to do with injury to the toenail itself. The toenails can become injured. It's really actually the tissue underneath the toenail that becomes injured. This injury can occur in a wide variety of different manners. Tight shoes, as I mentioned before, can create an injury because that pressure from the shoe can cause an abnormal amount of irritation to the skin underneath the nail, and eventually that can cause some bleeding to occur. And as that bleeding occurs, it basically fills up underneath the space in between the toenail and the skin that the toenail sits on. And that pressure, because it's a relatively closed-in environment, can be very, very painful. Now sometimes this doesn't look like there's any discoloration at all because it could just be clear fluid from the water component of blood, or sometimes it's just outright blood and the toenail can look dark or bruised in either black or a blue type of color. Now, it's not just tight shoes that can create this. Sometimes even shoes that are too loose can also create the same situation. We see this often in runners who wear a shoe that maybe is just a little bit too big. And what's going to happen in that scenario is that the foot, when it starts to slide inside the shoe, is actually going to piston back and forth inside the shoe. And as the toes kind of ram against the edge of the shoe, the same sort of scenario can occur as if the shoe is too tight. Now, other types of injuries can cause this type of bleeding underneath the toenail. You can drop something heavy on the toe itself. You can also kick something, obviously, and stub the toe. Occasionally, these injuries are also associated with toe fractures. Now, it's very important that if you do have a memorable injury, such as kicking something or having something drop on the toe and the toe is really painful and the nail is completely black and blue, it's important that this be assessed because one of the causes of why it could become black and blue could be that there might be a fracture of the end of the toe bone. And with this fracture, sometimes a piece of it will actually stick up through the skin underneath the toenail. Now, that technically is an open fracture, and that makes that bone much more likely to develop a bacterial infection, which is a much more serious issue than if the skin were simply infected. So it's very important to have that type of injury assessed, at least an x-ray taken, to make sure that there's no little piece of bone that might be more prominent. And oftentimes, for treatment simply for these conditions, just involves removal of the toenail. It will eventually grow back, so you don't have to worry about that. But if there's been enough damage to the nail root cells, the growth of that toenail could be abnormal, and the toenail, as it grows back, could become thick or even go off in a different direction, or even become ingrown, as I mentioned before. Well, that concludes today's discussion of why toenails can become painful. Next video, I'm going to talk about the other main reasons why toenails are painful, which include nail fungus infections and also just simply nail thickening. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please look for more videos on all things foot and ankle on this site as well as others, or you may check my website at www.inpodiatrygroup.com. Thank you.